This is News 25 with Deanna O'Donnell and Eunette Gentry. News 25, local news you can count on. News is brought to you by J.K. Nelson Law. Call 727-9900 today for your free consultation. If you need a lawyer, you need Nelson.
Welcome to News 25. Well, Fall Festival is officially a no-go. I'm Deanna O'Donnell.
And I'm Eunette Gentry. It's Tuesday, August 4th.
The 2020 Pahrump Fall Festival has been canceled. The Nye County Commissioners decided that they would cancel this year's event, which was scheduled to be held at the end of September at Petrick Park. This is due to the coronavirus pandemic. The board hopes to make the 2021 festival the biggest and best one ever. We'll have more on this decision on tomorrow night's broadcast. Well, a structure fire Tuesday afternoon has caused significant damage to a home on Beale Road. Authorities blocked off a large area around the scene after initial reports of explosions. Pahrump Valley Fire and Rescue Chief Scott Lewis recaps what happened.
So it is around 2:30 this afternoon. Pahrump Fire Rescue was dispatched for a report of a structure fire. The initial report was on South Blag, but was quickly amended to South Buell. As we arrived on location, we had a heavy fire condition and a travel trailer used as a fixed structure. The windswept conditions were blowing spot fires to the north. Therefore, not only in addition to structure fire, we also had ground cover fire developing. Crews commenced a defensive exterior attack due to the heavy fire conditions, quickly knocked down the main body of fire. Separate fire units then were dispatched for the report of the brush fire. They quickly controlled that with no further extension. There was discharging ammunition throughout the incident. However, the fire was quickly controlled in less than 10 minutes. So therefore, that risk has been eliminated. It appears that there was material stored within there that could add to that type of condition. We're looking at the possibility of propane, some of the tires that were affixed to it, things along those lines. The travel trailer had sustained significant damage. We're investigating the possibility of improperly discarded smoking materials, which started the ground cover extending to the structure.
And at the July 28th Board of County Commissioners meeting, Commissioner Blendo asked some questions regarding COVID numbers and their tracking. Chief Scott Lewis, Director of Emergency Management, was on the phone and able to respond.
I'd like to know, out of our total number of COVID cases, are we subtracting the mortalities, the deaths, off of that number, or do we still continue to count them as a positive test?
So on the bottom of my report that I generate, it shows by the town, and at the bottom we subtract the antibody test because they're showing at some point they were exposed, but we don't count those actually as a positive case. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we subtract those, and we also subtract anything that was transferred to Clark County, and the number includes the 7 deaths.
I've heard that we do the contact tracing, and then those individuals are on a quarantine as well. Is that true?
Well, it's two different thought processes. The contact tracing has nothing to do with the self-quarantining. It is simply an information gathering system. You may recall from my previous reports that what we do in that is determine that the information we have for them is accurate, that when their first symptoms, because that starts a timeline, the nature of their symptoms, where they're employed, and what their exposures and risks are. So when we gather that information, we memorialize it, and then it's part of a report that goes to the state epidemiologist's office, and eventually I guess it makes it to the governor's desk, but not by name or anything like that, just the basic information.
And Chief Lewis also stated that those that are retested for COVID-19 are not included in a second time in the totals. Nye County COVID results today say that there's an update of the last cases emailed, which were sent Monday morning at 9:02. Overall, there has been 362 confirmed cases here in Nye County of COVID-19 positive test results, with 5 new cases reported here in Pahrump overnight and 1 in Amargosa. They reported that one over the weekend. The reminder that the antibody test positives do not count in the county's overall active total. There was a new positive reported during the weekend among the Nye County Sheriff's Office Detention Center detainees, bringing that Pahrump facility number to 50. This was the first new positive at the jail in 10 days. Chemisys Laboratory through Serenity Health has partnered with the Nye County Sheriff's Office in Nye County to provide drive-up COVID testing for Nye County and surrounding communities. Testing here in Pahrump is now Monday, 7 to 9 p.m., Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., and Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. There's no pre-registration required. You just show up with your ID and insurance card. if you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you may still test. The testing location is at Serenity Health, 2280 East Calvada Boulevard, number 301 here in Pahrump. People will be lining up in the Calvada Eye for testing. Also, if you want to make an appointment for testing, you can do that by giving Serenity Health a phone call at 702-234-5398. You can even email pahrump@serenitymentalhealth.org. In Tonopah, there is two different numbers, 775-302-5800 and 775-482-9898. If you would like to have COVID or antibody testings, you can do that by giving those numbers a call. And we'll be right back with more news right after this.
You're watching News 25, the most recognized and farthest-reaching local news in Nye County. News 25, local news you can count on.
Welcome back to News 25. Well, it's getting tougher and tougher to get a loan from the bank. Lord & Taylor parent company Taylor Brands is filing for bankruptcy, and electric truck maker Lordstown Motors is merging ahead of taking its shares public. Angela Miles has all those details.
Topping our news, the big banks are tightening up on lending even as Americans are in severe need of loans. According to the Federal Reserve, it's tougher to get banks to lend money for commercial real estate, buying cars, or even getting a credit card. Banks are demanding higher credit scores. The bankers contend it's due to concerns over increased regulations. Lord & Taylor, along with Taylor Brands, a company that owns Men's Warehouse, both filing for bankruptcy protection. Factory activity around the nation is picking up. The ISM index for July jumped to 54.2, up from 52.6 in June. A reading above 50 indicates growth. The electric car industry is getting a real charge this week. Electric truck maker Lordstown Motors is merging with Diamond Peak Holdings. Together, the companies will IPO shares under the ticker symbol RIDE.
Thanks, Angela. Turning back now to local news, Nye County continues to see an increasing number of COVID-19 cases, and one Pahrump family is being significantly impacted. 5 family members, 4 adults and 1 child, have tested positive for the disease. 1 is still recovering at the hospital. 3 of those family members sat down with News 25 to tell us how they're dealing with the COVID-19 diagnoses. And they have a warning for people who have children.
Well, our whole family was tested positive a little over a week and a half ago for COVID. His daddy tested positive first, and he is in the hospital right now, still trying to recover. And then once he tested positive, his wife, Jamie, was tested, and then she tested positive, but Desert View wouldn't do a test on Connor because he had no symptoms other than maybe a fever here and there. So we went to the free testing, the rest of the family, because the rest of us were feeling ill, and had the free testing done at Serenity, and got the results back 4 days later, and all of us, including Connor, had tested positive, and Scott Lewis at the fire department said that Connor was the youngest one in Nye County to test positive for it. We want to make people aware that even if your child, like the only symptoms he had was a 99.8 fever for a couple of days. And other than a lack of appetite, he hasn't had any lack of energy. He's just a little over 2 years old. But reading some of the studies that have come out from Chicago and Boston in just the last couple of days, showing that children under the age of 5 have 10 to 100 times more of the virus in their nasal cavity than adults do. So even though they're not showing symptoms and they have good immune systems to help fight off of this thing, it can be devastating to moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas. The rest of the family is doing good. We all are pretty much O positive, O negative blood type, and unfortunately his daddy is A positive. And they said because of the effect of different blood types, that's probably why he's not doing so well. And we want to let people know, because they're talking about sending all their kids back to school. And I know parents are having a really hard time struggling with this. But to send the kids back, and the way kids interact, it's going to spread. It's going to get worse than it is now. And so that's what we're trying to bring attention to, because this is so new. This virus is so new. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's going to happen. You ask for statistics, you can't get them all, because everything is so different. Each individual is so different. And for the first week that her husband, Gino, was in the hospital, I couldn't go up and hug her. I could not comfort her. Her husband was on the verge, 75% oxygen in his lungs. He could not breathe. And for me not to be able to go and hug my own daughter, and to hug my grandson and give him kisses and love-ins, that was the hardest thing. And so I don't want other people to have to go through it. I want them to try to understand that even though the kids don't have symptoms, they can still spread it.
And unfortunately, Gino Romo, who is Jamie's husband and Connor's father, is still hospitalized. And you could hear cute little Connor calling for his dada during that story. Gino is improving, fortunately, and is expected to be home soon. That family has set up a Facebook funding account to help them pay for the hospital bills that are mounting. We have a link to that on our local Pahrump Facebook page. And stay tuned, we'll be right back with more COVID-19 news and how it might affect you and your family.
You're watching News 25, brought to you by Mountain West Lawyer, Injury Attorneys, 727-9500. News 25, local news you can count on.
Doctors are still learning how COVID-19 impacts certain people. Transplant recipients may be particularly vulnerable group because the medications they take suppress the immune system, putting them at a higher risk for any infection. One recent college grad who had a double lung transplant shares how COVID-19 left him fighting for his life. Erica Foreman has his story.
24-year-old Nick Hunter is no stranger to a life-threatening diagnosis. He was born with cystic fibrosis, a disease that attacks the lungs, and 4 years ago had a double lung transplant.
I've been able to kind of hit the reset button on my illness and really live life the way I've kind of wanted to growing up.
Nick recently graduated from college with a journalism degree. He began job hunting and staying on top of COVID-19.
I keep up with the news, especially when there's a health issue kind of arising. So I was very aware of what the symptoms were.
Nick developed a cough, stuffy nose, low-grade fever, and headache.
I just decided to go to the ER. I was concerned enough. And when I went there, they had me tested. I tested positive, and they did a chest x-ray and found a severe case of pneumonia.
Right away, he was admitted to Cleveland Clinic, Akron General. But the next day, his condition worsened.
When I was sleeping, my oxygen level had dropped critically low, and so they kind of decided right then and there to put me on a ventilator.
Being on a ventilator increases risk for lung infection, making Nick's transplanted lungs even more susceptible to complications.
You have lungs already that are there that are very vulnerable and very, very sensitive to any sort of change or any sort of insult.
Nick spent a week fighting for his life on the ventilator.
I haven't really said this out loud very much, but I could have passed away without saying goodbye to family, without them being there to be with me. Thankfully, that didn't happen. It's been something I've really tried to wrap my head around.
He feels lucky to be alive and has a message for those questioning coronavirus.
And I would absolutely say the most important thing to do is to take it seriously. Wear a mask, stay 6 feet apart, wash and sanitize your hands, all of that stuff.
At Cleveland Clinic, I'm Erica Foreman.
Thanks, Erica. Well, Dr. Badiv says Nick's youth and strength helped pull him through, but he's not out of the woods just yet because COVID-19 is still new. Doctors won't know the the long-term impact on his lungs for a year or more. Well, when it's time to cook at home, your ovens are a workhorse of the kitchen. But like any other home appliance, they eventually need to be repaired or replaced. So what can you do to keep your oven in tip-top shape? Well, we get some tips in today's Angie's List report.
We all want a clean oven, especially when preparing a big meal, but don't chance running the self-cleaning mechanism right before an important get-together.
One of the worst things you can do before a big family gathering is to run the self-cleaning feature on your oven. It heats your oven up to 1,000 degrees, and if you're doing that right before you're getting ready to use it, there's a chance that you could burn out some of the heating elements and cause your oven to go kaput.
Experts recommend a self-cleaning every 4 to 6 weeks when used regularly. You can go longer if you continually wipe up spills.
We don't want a lot of buildup before we do a self-clean. Self-cleaning cycles, you can adjust them anywhere from 2 to 3.5 hours. If you don't have a lot of soil, set it for 2 hours. Let it do its thing, and you don't have to worry about it.
The extreme heat of the self-cleaner makes it a fire risk, so don't run it before you leave the house or while you sleep. Another oven don't is using aluminum foil as a drip pan.
This one actually says, do not use foil on bottom. Sure, it prevents drips and what have you and makes cleaning easier, but it causes some problems as far as uneven heat, reflection, and because oven cavities are made to disperse the heat properly so we have even baking. So, foil, not a good idea.
A couple of other expert tips. Make sure the vents are clean and clear to maintain even cooking, and do not use spray cleaners around the control knobs. They can leak into the circuitry and short them out. A soapy cloth or sponge should do the trick. Angie says you should get 7 to 10 problem-free years out of a new oven when properly cleaned and maintained. If you have a gas oven and you start to notice a gas smell or uneven heating, it's an indication of an igniter problem and needs to be serviced.
News 25 Weather Cam is brought to you by Lerner and Rowe Injury Attorney's Office in Pahrump. In a wreck, need a check? Call 702-877-1500.
And we'll take a look outside as we head into our break. When we come back from the desk, we will have weather here in a moment.
News 25 Weather is brought to you by Dairy Council of Nevada. The splash of cream in your coffee, the dollop of sour cream on your burrito, the melted toasty cheese on your pizza. Undeniably delicious, undeniably dairy. Enjoy what's real.
All right, in the surrounding areas, Las Vegas is high today, 108, low tonight, 78. Death Valley, a high 116 tonight, 81. Amargosa, 105, 68 is your low tonight. Beatty, 102, 64. Goldfield, still cool up there at 96 and 56 is your overnights. Tonopah even lower, 94.55, and Carson City beats them out at 93.54. Fallon, 99 with tonight's low of 60, and Fernley, 97.61. Sunny skies here in Pahrump with your high of 103, winds out of the south at 15 miles per hour, humidity at 8%, and sunrise 5:53 this morning. Tonight, clear skies with your low of 73, winds out of the southeast at 9 miles per hour, humidity up there at 15, and sunset 7:45. Your 7-day forecast shows some windy conditions still around 11-12 miles per hour, going up to 17 on Wednesday and then down to 14 on Thursday, and then coming back up by the beginning of next week with clear skies all the way across the board. Looking at Wednesday's high of 101, low overnight of 71, and Thursday, I think we had a little mistake there on those graphics. It says 67 is your high. I think this is probably going to change a little bit there, but we got 98 on Friday as your high and 69 as your low. Saturday, 101 and your low overnight at 71. Sunday coming up there to 103. For Monday and Tuesday, your overnights are in the low 70s, and Tuesday, 101 with your overnight lows of 69 degrees.
And the Stork has some special deliveries for our station family members, Ubaldo and Chase. They're about to become dads. Their partners are expecting really soon.
Yeah, we've got Chase and his lovely wife in the hospital right now, having a baby. We're so excited. And coincidentally enough, Ubaldo and his fiancee Emily were supposed to also be induced today at the same exact hospital. So we're waiting for the babies. We're waiting for them to come over here so we can squeeze them as well. But we are so excited for these two couples. Of course, everybody knows that Chase is Rhonda's son, and we've been waiting for them for a while, and Rhonda to be a new grandma, so we're excited about that. And of course, Ubaldo and Emily's first baby, and we've been waiting for them, so super excited about these couples. Can't wait to show pictures and tell you more about it in the coming days, because this is something super exciting.
Oh, yes, and I'm calling them our station twins, and congratulations to all of the parents.
That's fantastic news. I can't wait to find out more about them. Emily and Ubaldo have just purchased their house, and he's our tech director here.
Congratulations again.
Yeah, so many things going on in their exciting lives.
Adulting.
Exactly. Just want to squeeze the babies, that's all I know. All right, well, that's going to wrap up this edition of News 25. I'm Deanna O'Donnell.
And I'm Eunette Gentry. And from all of us here at KPVM, even our news station family members, have a good evening. Thanks so much for watching us, and we'll see you next newscast.
Good night.
Good night.